Last week, the FBI carried out a late-night raid on Donald Trump's Florida home. Hunter Biden, who lived down the block from Trump, reportedly soiled himself when he saw agents coming down the street, but then remembered he was a Democrat and went back to snorting cocaine off an underage Russian prostitute while loading his illegal firearm and conducting business in China. In recent years, Trump has expressed concern about his own security and even shared plans for an impenetrable wall around his home. Unfortunately, work had stalled because he promised his accountant that Joe Biden would pay for it. Trump said that during the raid, agents even broke into his safe, and that they were disappointed to find that it was filled to the brim with nothing but glamour shots of himself. According to reports, the raid looked to stop classified material taken by a former president from being held or erased. Apparently, this is a new concern given that no one cared when Bill Clinton took half of the White House with him when he left, including a few interns. We were able to reach Hillary Clinton for comment, who was enjoying an evening in smashing servers with a hammer, and she gave us the following exclusive statement. Ha ha, ha ha, can you pass the bleach? Now get out before you kill yourself. After the raid, multiple Republicans were criticized for comparing the FBI to the Gestapo under Nazi Germany. Democrats suddenly decided that Holocaust comparisons are bad again, announcing, quote, "It's unbelievable that these Nazis would use one of the worst moments in history to push a political agenda." In an awkward turn of events, it was quickly pointed out that Trump nominated the man who sanctioned this raid, FBI Director Christopher Wray, making this the worst decision since Johnny Depp married Amber Heard and turned down the warranty on his new mattress. Now that the FBI has completed its search of the home of a former president of the United States, optimists are now confident that the agency will finally have the bandwidth to focus on less important threats, like investigating potential school shooters, not portraying parents as domestic terrorists, and maybe looking into the overseas business dealings of the current president of the United States. Responding to accusations of impropriety, the Democratic Party and the FBI released a joint statement which read, "This was not politically motivated." Sure, we lied about Russian collusion, the P-tapes, tear-gassing protesters for a photo op, Hunter Biden's laptop, Benghazi, COVID-19, and Trump's phone calls, but we promise we're telling the truth this time. And there's one thing we can be certain about. The FBI is absolutely 100% trustworthy. I'm Ian Haworth, and this is Off Limits. We made it to episode 3, mostly without being raided by the FBI. Before we get shut down, hit the like button and make sure you subscribe and leave a comment so when federal agents drag me away in the middle of the night, someone will notice. It's been a bad week for conspiracy theorist Alex Jones, made worse after his own lawyers accidentally released his phone records, including personal text messages, which were then handed over to the totally unbiased and completely necessary January 6th committee. These messages included conversations with Trump advisor Roger Stone, as well as other figures of sound mind like the Tasmanian Devil, Jar Jar Binks, and Nicolas Cage. We here at Off Limits saw this as an opportunity to learn more about what makes Alex Jones tick. So our resident conspiracy theorist, Nick, filed a Freedom of Information Act request for these messages, and you'll never guess what we found. Here are just a few highlights. Quote, "Ben Shapiro is the herpes on our ass." Quote, "I like women, not men, and if I liked men, I'd be proud of it and have a lot of them. But I ain't never been in bed with no man, I've been in bed with probably 300 women." And finally, quote, "It's not that Jews are bad, it's just that they are head of the Jewish mafia in the United States. They run Uber, they run the healthcare, they're going to scam you, they're going to hurt you." These are all things that Alex Jones has actually said in the past, by the way. After interviewing Alex Jones, Piers Morgan said it is concerning that someone like him has that level of influence. It is unbelievable that someone whose outlet reportedly published fake photographs of the British Army torturing Iraqi POWs, who described illegal phone hacking as an investigative practice while publishing multiple stories allegedly obtained via hacking, and has apparently sent photographers to harass his enemies, has this level of influence. Oh, and I guess it's bad that Alex Jones has a big audience too. Perhaps Alex Jones's most famous conspiracy theory is the claim that the government is using chemical warfare to spread homosexuality.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
But now it seems like time is running out for the world-famous conspiracy theorist. We met with Cecil, a representative of San Francisco's gay frog community, in a cute little coffee shop for a scone and a fly, and he told us that even his organization will be seeking punitive damages against Jones following years of stigmatization. The meeting was cut short when he realized his car was being towed. Jones's inflamed remarks on elite pedophilia rings may have been vindicated, however, as our research after the interview revealed that Cecil himself had been arrested for being caught in bed with a tadpole. Congress is patting itself on the back after the Senate approved a $700 billion spending package, somehow known as the Inflation Reduction Act. More than capable of emerging victorious after taking it from all sides, Vice President Kamala Harris cast the tie-breaking vote in the split Senate. Despite many pointing out the obvious that more spending will only fuel inflation, the Congressional Budget Office said that the bill will have a negligible effect on inflation in 2022 and into 2023, when the world is scheduled to end. More than $300 billion will be invested in climate change-related projects. John Kerry released a statement from his private jet saying that he was ecstatic. For some, however, $700 billion down the drain is nowhere near enough. Greta Thunberg sent a carrier pigeon from her boat in the Atlantic with the message, "How dare you?" With $700 billion price tag, $80 billion has been earmarked to hire up to 87,000 new IRS employees, with over $45 billion for enforcement tools, including a new fleet of tax collector cars. When one journalist asked the head of the IRS whether average Americans were going to be targeted, they denied there was anything to be concerned about, before asking the journalist for his name, social security number, and family address. Based on initial reports, the new IRS will be bigger than the Pentagon, State Department, and the FBI combined. Critics heaved a huge sigh of relief when they found out that the new IRS will be just as competent as the Pentagon, State Department, and the FBI combined. And now that the Democrats have successfully pushed the Inflation Reduction Act, they're focusing on the next wave of legislation. The Drive Like Ted Kennedy Act to reduce car deaths, the Free Crack Pipes for Crack Addicts Act to fight drug use, or the Harvey Weinstein Act, which will provide safe houses for sexually abused women. And in case you missed it, WNBA star Brittney Griner has been given a 9-year prison sentence in Russia. Her only crime? Crime. President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris have been working around the clock, between the hours of 3 p.m. and happy hour at Applebee's, to free Griner, with rumors of a potential prisoner swap that would somehow be the worst trade in WNBA history. After Biden and Harris openly fought for the freedom of an African American in jail for having marijuana, 40,000 American citizens jailed in the US for the same thing, many of whom are in jail because of Harris, released a joint statement which read, "What the f***?" During an overseas visit, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken told African leaders that the world should not dictate what Africa does. He then outlined Western priorities for Africa, which included democracy, security, and also stealing anything within a 1,000-mile radius that isn't nailed down. Shortly after the speech, Blinken had to get the hell out of there because the Biden administration launched a drone strike. And inflation is still unbelievably high. It was 9.1% last month, and it's now at 8.5% compared to this time last year. But that didn't stop Joe Biden from taking a victory lap, lying to the entire nation that inflation is actually 0%. It's like Biden just pushed you out of a plane without a parachute and told you everything is fine as you plummet towards the earth because you've reached your maximum falling speed. Sure, you're not falling faster, but you're still falling towards the ground at 120 miles an hour as Kamala Harris looks up at you grinning, holding a mop and a bucket. You're still gonna hit the ground. Inflation is still terrible. Are you a parent concerned about your children being taught that they're racist or that they're going to be exposed to groomers who want to indoctrinate them with sexual propaganda, but you're concerned that the FBI might label you as a domestic terrorist and come for you and your family at any second? Well, unless you're a Clinton, there's not much I can do to stop that from happening, but I can at least help you prepare. Head over to watchofflimits.com/shop and pick up your very own Off Limits with Ian Haworth tote bag. It comes in 3 convenient sizes, depending on the scale of your ideological crimes against the state. Use it to carry your groceries home from the store, to collect plastic bags for some reason, or to transport your treasured possessions across the border in the dead of night if you do something terrible like share an anti-communist meme or something. And speaking of entirely unnecessary and overpriced bags, what a segue, all politicians are the worst. Last week, Paul Pelosi was the catalyst for our story on insider trading in Congress. When we were researching for that segment, we noticed that Paul Pelosi is 82 years old, and he didn't cradle rob his wife of almost 60 years, Nancy Pelosi. Because guess what? She's the same age. Now, 82 years old is old. So old that even though a lot of people, including me, give Nancy Pelosi grief for her performance in The Emperor's New Groove, she still looks pretty good for her age. Kind of. Turns out that adrenochrome works. But the real problem here is not that Nancy Pelosi is so old that she can barely walk or talk or be close to children who look a bit foreign, but that she's not unusual. At least not unusual because of her age. If anything, being able to chew solid food makes you an outcast in our not-so-modern capital. Let's start with the obvious. The current president of the United States. Joe Biden is 79 years old. 79 years old. And he acts like it too. He can't string a sentence together, he forgets where he is almost constantly, he oscillates between creepy uncle whispers and crazy uncle screams, he shakes hands with invisible humans, he falls off bicycles, He reads the instructions on the teleprompter, pause for dramatic effect.
End of quote. Repeat the line.
And he can't even dress himself. And he says he wants to run again in 2024, 2 years away, which means he'll be campaigning when he's almost 82. A few years ago, Barack Obama reportedly said, "Don't underestimate Joe's ability to f things up." And that's when Joe was conscious, let alone when he becomes the first president whose campaign is sponsored by Depends. And he's not alone in the "I almost didn't make it to the bathroom" department. If he runs again in 2024, Donald Trump will be 78 years old. He's also like an orange Benjamin Button fueled by Diet Coke and chicken nuggets, so he might well live forever. Hillary Clinton, she'll be 77 years old when the 2024 election comes around. And this age problem has spread like a gross varicose vein throughout Washington, leading me to ask, how did we let the government become completely overrun by geriatrics? In 1981, the average age in the House was 49 years old, and 53 in the Senate. Now the average age in the House is 60 years old, and in the Senate, the average age is almost 65 years old. To give you some perspective, the median age in the country in 2019 was 38 years old. No wonder they wanted Madison Cawthorn to join in their DC orgies. Who cares whether anything works below the waist or not? Anything to get the average age down. First, let's take a look at the House of Representatives. 88 members of the House are 70 or older, and 15 are 80 or older. Unfortunately, age isn't just a problem for a few members of the House who don't do much except shuffling back and forth between the cafeteria and the bathroom. As well as Nancy Pelosi, the Beyond Golden Years Club also includes her number 2, Steny Hoyer, and Maxine Waters, who heads up the Financial Services Committee. They're both 83 years old. Jim Clyburn, the Majority Whip, is 82, and Jerry Nadler is so old, he starred as the original Penguin. Then there's the Senate, which is starting to feel like a Florida Denny's at 4 p.m., and not in a good way. 34 senators are 70 or older. 7 are 80 or older. There's Mitch McConnell, who's actually young for a turtle. Bernie Sanders is 80, another potential Democratic Party candidate for president in 2024, when he'll be 83. Patrick Leahy is 82, while Richard Shelby and Chuck Grassley are both 88. And then there's the winner. Coming in at a whopping 89 years old, California's Dianne Feinstein. She's so old that she was 31 years old when the fax machine was invented, 55 when the Gay Boy was released, and 9 years old when Joe Biden was born. That means that she was an adult when Joe Biden witnessed those imaginary kissing homosexuals in the bad side of town in 1960s Scranton, Pennsylvania. She also literally has dementia and no one is doing anything about it. Even when the media tries to address her decline kindly, they said the quiet part out loud. Take this example. New York Magazine's The Cut published this article. The institutionalist Dianne Feinstein fought for gun control, civil rights, and abortion access for half a century. Where did it all go wrong? And this line jumped out at me. Nothing she said suggested a deterioration beyond what would be normal for a person her age, but neither did it demonstrate any urgent engagement with the various crises facing the nation. Beyond what would be normal for a person her age. Yes, deterioration is a normal part of getting older, and I know biological reality is unpopular right now, but we must ask, why are we giving people who are crumbling beneath the weight of time more and more and more power? If Dianne Feinstein or Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Grassley applied for a job at Office Max, they'd be turned away for being too old. Honestly, they're too old to work at the returns counter at Walmart. We don't let them decide whether you can return that toaster, but we do let them decide on war. Letting them restock printer ink is too much of a liability, but we let them run the global financial system. Why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we keep these old politicians in power, letting them get more powerful, more old, more powerful, more old? It's like seeing your grandmother run over your neighbor's kid and still giving her the keys. The answer is actually simple though. First, Joe Biden. He might have achieved his lifelong ambition by becoming president on the third try, but he's nothing but an empty suit at this point. A dribbling mouthpiece for the people holding the strings. It's not like this is even a conspiracy theory. He's admitted it on multiple occasions.
I'm sorry, this is the last question I'll take, and I'm really going to be in trouble. I'm not supposed to be answering all these questions. I'm supposed to leave, but I can't resist your questions. Ladies and gentlemen, they gave me a list here. The first person I was instructed to call on was Kelly O'Donnell of NBC.
Who's telling him what to do? Oh, and don't forget the time he was escorted by the freaking Easter Bunny. But what about the league of extraordinarily old ladies and gentlemen who occupy Congress? What's the excuse there? Well, the fact is that the state of our politics is so cynical, so polarized, and so entrenched in virtue signaling that it doesn't really matter who is filling the seat itself. Every single issue is essentially split right down party lines, unless you ignore the handful of Republicans every year who think they can be the type of conservatives the Democrats respect. It really doesn't matter whether the person casting that vote is alive or dead, or somewhere in the middle, if they're going to vote the same way regardless. This situation has gotten so bad that it's been a years-long national news story that 2 Democratic senators sometimes refuse to toe the party line. And like a compliant, barely alive president of the United States, a compliant voting group in Congress is good for the powers in the shadows behind these government figures. While younger and more ambitious politicians might be tempted to try and actually do something different, even if their ideas are disastrously dumb, the reality is that they'll just be a nuisance to those protecting the status quo. A freshman senator might have to be bullied into supporting the latest spending bill. That takes effort and money. Instead, why not just keep Dianne Feinstein on life support so she can send billions of dollars to Ukraine or into the ether of the federal government and let her get back to the same crossword she's been stuck on since 2008? So, what's the solution here? Run for office? I don't think so. Implement term limits? Maybe. Hold a super spreader event on the White House lawn and let nature take its course? How dare you? But while our current class of aging politicians somehow keep running on a steady stream of vodka and Adderall, this is a problem that's not going away, especially as their baby boomer sidekicks catch up with them. And before anyone misunderstands what I'm saying, this isn't a call in support of 26-year-olds running for office who don't know anything and have never done anything, who see Congress as a way of boosting their social media presence. And it's not like I'm saying Congress should be off limits to anyone older than 50. What I am saying is, surely we can find someone between the ages of birth and edge of death who are at least slightly competent. Then again, maybe not. Thanks for joining me. Please don't forget to hit that like button, the notifications bell, subscribe to the channel for other videos, follow me on all social media. I'll see you next time on Off Limits with me, Ian Haworth. Off Limits with Ian Haworth was created by Ian Haworth, produced by Austin Stevens, executive producer Ian Haworth, written by Ian Haworth, Austin Stevens, and Nick Sheehan, subpoena document shredder Nick Sheehan. Off Limits with Ian Haworth is a Half Crown Productions show. Copyright Half Crown Productions 2022.